The European Union is an ambitious concept, but it was utterly broken by the financial crisis of 2008. The impact of this crisis was not only economic but also political. The crisis redefined the boundaries of state and corporations. State power was increased and market autonomy was reduced. The crisis also showed the importance of national sovereignty, and once that was realized, the European states were unwilling to give up their sovereignties for the European Union. Now, the financial crisis started in the United States when the Bush administration tried to finance the war in Iraq. Bush tried to increase the total revenue of taxes by stimulating the economy. They tried to stimulate the economy by allowing the Federal Reserve to produce cheap money. An extraordinary portion of this debt-based money poured into the residential housing market, and inflation skyrocketed the housing prices. Everyone bought into this trend. American banks sold their mortgage bundles to banks in other countries as investments. Now, it's true that American investors and American banks acted irresponsibly, but Europeans, they took it to a whole new level. European nations bought into this trend of rising house prices, and they too started to take on mortgages themselves. For example, people in Hungary and Romania and other Eastern European nations took on mortgages that were provided by Austrian and Italian banks. And in order to avoid high interest rates of many Eastern European states, these banks offered loans in foreign currencies, mainly in Swiss francs and even Japanese yen. So the Eastern European house owners did not pay their mortgages in their national currency, rather in foreign currency. And you can see this is a very bad idea. Not only were the prices of houses based on debt and cheap money, but also because the prices of mortgages depended on the currency rates. For example, if the national currency rises against the Swiss franc, then it becomes cheaper. But the opposite happened. Many national currencies of Eastern European states were falling against the Swiss franc, falling against the Japanese yen. This meant that the prices of mortgages rose as well. And once the American panic in the house market reached Europe, many Eastern European currencies just plunged. The financial crisis of 2008 can be summed up as the aftershock effect of the Iraqi war, and the cheap money produced by the Federal Reserve, and mismanagement by international banks. But the financial crisis was also a test for the European Union, a test they utterly failed. For example, the Spanish Prime Minister was calling his countrymen to buy Spanish goods. The British, they were against European Union labor force. The French and German, they rushed in to save their national car industries. Because in the end, the crisis showed how fundamentally important national sovereignty really is. It was a wake-up call for many European countries. If you don't control your financial system or currency, you are deeply vulnerable to the actions of other countries. The European Union simply didn't live up to its name. Once the crisis kicked off, there was no union. It was every man for himself. And this is what eventually made the European Union members mistrust each other. That's why the European nations are stepping back from the European Union. The German Chancellor Merkel put it in a realistic way. There is no quick fix for the crisis, and it will continue for several more years. In the end, it comes down to one fundamental point. If the European Union members give up their sovereignties, the Union will survive. And if they don't give up their sovereignties, then the European Union will not survive. This was a Caspian report by me, Shirvan. Thank you for watching. Saul.